Hey, welcome everybody. This is Adam here. I think we're going to be standing by waiting for Brett and a few other people to join.
Hey, Adam.
Hey, Brett, how you doing?
Good, good. Hey, just while we're waiting here, I just want to get a quick mic check and video check. If you're on right now, would you mind just in the chat box typing "got it" or "see it" or "hear it" or any of the above, just so that we can make sure that we're hearing and being seen and all that.
Awesome. Rob, thank you. Looks like you can hear us. Any of the above. Thank you. Randy, good. All right. Sounds like our audio is good.
Awesome. Got a couple people or a couple minutes here before some others are showing up. If you would just type in the chat box where you're joining from. That way we can see kind of reach we've got on this particular webinar.
Well, while you guys are typing, Jersey Shore, nice. I'm joining you guys from Estes Park, Colorado, where it is winter is setting in slowly.
Yeah, for those that don't know, Adam lives in like a resort town where up in Colorado where he like rides dirt bikes and mountain bikes and I don't know. I feel like you're hardly working sometimes. It's just a matter of the day, and then you're like working really hard, or you're just out playing really hard.
You know, it's just a perception. Looks like we had someone from Spain too. That's fantastic. Now, I live in a beautiful place. Take advantage of the mountains. Have some fun.
Awesome.
So, should I fire up this video, Brett?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go ahead and let's just jump right on in. I'm here as well, hopefully.
Super. And Brett, it's giving me that prompt again. You can't start your video because the host has stopped it.
That's right. There we go. There we go.
So let's see. There we go. Success.
Cool. There he is, Adam.
All right.
Hey, man.
Hello, everybody.
So let's just jump in. I'm gonna go ahead and give just a quick intro here on what we're talking about. Just a quick intro into Adam, and then Adam, I'll hand it over to you and let you take it from there. We can definitely. I'm excited to talk a little bit more about the topic, the brain Hickey topic.
Yeah, sure thing.
So just a quick intro. My name is Brett. I'm the founder of Blick Digital, and we help service businesses specifically with automation and tools like Infusionsoft. We also work with specific partners like Adam to make sure that your copy converts and that your design looks amazing and that the automation really just feels personal. So that's really what we work on as far as our business. And Adam, just a quick intro. Adam is a partner that I met through a client, and at first I wasn't sure what to think of him, but as soon as I saw some of his emails, I was like, all right, this guy knows what he's doing. So Adam, what I really appreciate about Adam is that he's there are copywriters that are really creative but don't necessarily focus on conversion, and then there's copywriters that are both creative and can focus on conversion. And I think that's the sweet spot, and really that's what I appreciate about Adam: his landing pages, his emails, all of that. And so that's why I invited him to join me to talk a little about copywriting here. And in full transparency, like, this is as much for me as it is for anyone else, probably more so for me than anyone else. Like, it's just me being selfish. Like, I want to learn a little bit more, and that's kind of my my take on this. So just I guess a couple of credentials. Adam had sent me a couple of information here. I think you were the COO of like a $7 million business that does sales training and things like that. So he's had experience in the sales arena. I think that's probably where the effectiveness of that copywriting comes into play. And then just, I think I've mentioned before, but he's just an outstanding guy, and I really appreciate working with him. So with that being said, Adam, I'm just going to kind of transfer to you. I'll let you go ahead and share your screen. I'll stop sharing mine, and
Awesome.
then yeah, man, go for it.
Awesome. Well, hey, first we'll jump in, and Brett, thank you for having me here, and looking forward to chatting with everybody. And hey, at the end, save your questions. We're going to have some Q&A, and the more specific, the better to your project. So I'm going to stop sharing the video, share my screen here, and let's see, desktop one, and where's my navigation? We have this, and let's get going. Want to make sure everybody can see the screen here. How to Give a Brain, Hickey, crafting unforgettable copy that converts. Brett, are we good to go?
I see it. Yeah, I'm good.
Awesome. Super.
And I'll be monitoring comments and stuff throughout the way. So if anyone has any questions or comments, post them in, and then, like Adam said, probably towards the end we'll get into the specific questions.
Awesome. So hey, I'm Adam Bensman, the Brain Hickey guy. As Brett said, I kind of fell backwards into the copy world, and I was the CEO of an $8 million a year in-home sales company and did business management consulting and sales training. So I've been able to blend a little bit more of a holistic approach than quote unquote traditional copywriters. So here's what we're going to jump into today. This is coming from a copywriter telling you that writing is arguably the least important part of powerful copy. And if you think about it this way, so I used to really be into the auto racing world, and I drove a front wheel drive, underpowered little car that I'd take on the racetrack, and I'd run circles around some Porsches. And the reason I share that story is it's really the mechanism that's driving the machine that's more important than the machine itself. And far too many people focus on the actual writing rather than the structure and the bones of the writing. So what we're going to go into today is, even if you're not a strong writer, or you're slow, or you don't think that you're very talented in it, taking these tools will give you that framework to overcome the weaknesses you may have with selecting the right verbiage, the right words to use to craft some powerful copy. First and foremost, people buy feelings, they don't buy things. Now, this is one of the most famous copywriting headlines ever. If you're ever into copywriting and you follow any blogs, you'll see this. This is an ad for Rolls-Royce, and it says, at 60 miles an hour, the loudest noise in this new Rolls-Royce comes from the electric clock. Now, instead of saying buy a Rolls-Royce, they're handmade luxury vehicles, performance vehicles, they're making statements and claims, but instead they tell it in a story. So when you hear this, it's 60 miles an hour, the loudest noise in the Rolls-Royce comes from the clock, right? It gives that feeling of luxury and comfort and refinement. So people here, they're buying the feeling of luxury. They're not trying to buy, a Rolls-Royce per se. All right, we're going to jump in to the backbone of copy that converts. So it all starts off with a deep understanding of these three elements in your target market. First is the problem, right? So many people start focusing more on the solution, but you really need to understand the problem and the far-reaching feelings that the product or services that you provide are solving. Now, the next is what I call the search initiative. Whenever someone's about to make a buying decision, there's going to be some sort of occurrence. Something's going to happen in their life or their business that's going to say, I'm going to start searching for blank, a new landscaper, an attorney, maybe new furniture, a couch, right? Something is going to trigger the search. And the more knowledge we have on that trigger, the more we can speak to it. Now, the other thing is the desire. And we really, really need to put our focus here on speaking to desires, because after all, we're all trying to buy feelings that fulfill what we want. And if we focus too much on features and things like that, we're losing track of selling what people want to buy. And I learned very early on I started a hobby business I told Brett about. I dumped $30,000 into it, put together a bunch of custom programming, built an audience of 20,000. I made $400 because I was selling what I thought people wanted, not what they wanted to buy. And it didn't work. So that was, to me, a valuable lesson. Expensive one at that. So your only job with your copy, whether it's on your website, an email campaign, or anything, is literally to imagine holding their hand and walking them to your solution, right? Getting close enough to develop that trust and that bond where you could just put your hand out and hold hand in hand and walk them to your buying decision. So where does it start? And I'm going to dive into some actual samples and screenshots here. It all starts with positioning and your value proposition. And this will go from your headline to each different copy medium that you write: email, landing pages, your main website, whatever it is. So what you need to focus on is the greatest value, the greatest benefit from your product or service, and position every single piece of your brand around this greatest benefit. And then building it into a story, into your brand story, the common thread that runs from when someone gets an email, anytime they touch an email, they're going to say, hey, this guy is great at blank, right? That's the benefit, the greatest benefit. And we need to keep it singular and focused. And as simple as this concept seems, I spend, if I'm rewriting web copy, and I've written web copy, I've written videos, I've written radio ads, landing pages, I've written for a brand with an email list of over 1 million people. Whenever, it doesn't matter how big or small you are, if you can boil down the essence to this greatest benefit and make sure that you touch on it in everything, you take that real estate in the prospect's mind to be known as the guy or gal or the company that does blank. You hear Kleenex, you think facial tissue, right? You hear Ziploc, you think plastic bags. We want to just singularly focus on our greatest value proposition. Where most people go wrong with their positioning is they get wrapped up in the what instead of focusing on the why. Simon Sinek goes into this, right? We don't want to sell, I forget who said this, said no one wants to buy 1/4-inch drill bits, they want to buy 1/4-inch holes, right? Because no one wants to go through the effort of a drilling process. So here's some samples that I grabbed from, some I've written, some I haven't. Evernote I did not write, but they focus on the greatest benefit. Remember everything. Beautifully written, concise, simple, powerful. It's what they do. Here's a horrible one by Cloudfair. Give us 5 minutes, it will supercharge your website. I don't know what supercharging a website is. We're going to go into this later about copy hacks and how they're kind of not. I'm going to dispel a lot of copy hack myths. And they're trying to use supercharge in a sexy copy way because they read about it on a blog. But it doesn't speak to the value. So what we need to do after our value prop is position benefits and not features. Now I'm working with an education tech company that does language learning software, another SaaS company, software as a service company. And so many people focus on the features. Well, check out what my product can do. Check out what we can do here. But no one cares. The feature needs to support the benefit, not the benefit supporting the feature. So lead with benefits, right? If I said, hey, I can make your life easier, you're interested. How? And then I can tell you how. Versus, hey, I can sell you an alarm clock. Well, I don't care about an alarm clock. I want to wake up on time. So focusing on the benefits. So a little trick to do that, and I encourage you feel free to take some screenshots of this. I know we're going to send you the recording when we're done, but you're welcome to take some screenshots or some notes. But I call it the so you can method. I'm not the original crafter of this idea, but it helps you identify the difference between features and benefits. Here's an example. We have features in green, benefits in red. On-demand access would be a feature, so you can benefit, learn Spanish on your own time. Automatic data syncing, which is the feature, so you can focus on growing your business. Automatic reminders, so you can never miss a meeting again, right? What's sexier, not missing a meeting or having a reminder? So again, focusing on those benefits. This really, really, if you're confused at all, spend some time doing this. And I know it seems rudimentary. I literally practice everything that I preach. So I do this with clients, and I've done it for myself in my own products that I'm selling.
So that, Adam, just chiming in here real quick back on that, because I love, like, especially when it comes to copywriting, because I'm not like super creative, and so I love formulas like this. I guess what you're saying is this could be like a good formula for, say, like an email subject line, or maybe like bullet points or something like that. Where would you kind of use this sort of this like framework?
Great question. For me, it's predominantly a thought exercise. I like to do this to learn, how do I position my features? The hardest part about writing copy is getting out of your own way. It's easier for an outside copywriter to come in because you have an outside perspective. But when you've spent all your time developing features, your focal point is on features. But doing this exercise will help you differentiate and reframe how to talk about your features. So to apply this thought process, let's say I had a software company with a feature with automatic reminders. Go ahead.
Sorry, just for some real time, can we use like my business as like a quick example, like Blick Digital does, and
Sure.
Maybe that'll kind of, like I said, this is all like selfish focus. This is just for me. So, so I guess what I'm getting at is maybe I can kind of repeat it back to you, and you can say yay or nay, sort of thing. So I guess what I'm hearing is that, like, this is just an overarching to kind of get the, like, if I were to start like a brand journal, so to speak, or like my messaging journal as to like what I want my message to be to get out there into the internet or wherever else I want it to go. This is the exercise you recommend starting with. And so for Blick Digital, I guess it would be like, automated marketing campaigns so that you can save time and grow your business and generate qualified leads or something like that. Something to that effect, I guess, is what you're getting at.
Exactly. And then what's fun is to dive in deeper and deeper and deeper. And you'll see every time I do this exercise with people, you start on the surface, right? So you might say automated email campaigns so you can save time, right? That's a big piece. But ultimately, to me, an automated campaign is building an asset that maximizes touch points and generates revenue even while you sleep, right? It's kind of like you're building a digital salesperson that runs on autopilot that you don't have to pay a commission to. So
Nice.
when people map this out, if you're a software company, for example, people lead bullet points on the features. Instead of the bullet point of what your feature is, talk about the benefit. So under your features tab, because people will click that, never miss a meeting again using automatic reminders, right? So we lead with the benefit and qualify the results by emphasizing the features. Does that make sense?
Nice. Yeah. Love it.
Awesome. Thank you for chiming in on that.
Yeah.
Again, Campaign Monitor, they're very clear about what they do, but it's not sexy. They focus on the what? Email marketing software for designers and their clients. Cool, right? But like, what do I get from that? Because MailChimp does that, Infusionsoft, ActiveCampaign, everybody does that. Why are you different, right? Here's one. I did write this one. This was for an ad agency out in LA. They specialize in enterprise accounts. And what they drive is engagement. So their differentiator is driving real engagements and quantifiable, clear results. So real engagement, clear results. Now the path to the perfect headline should set the hook, intrigue the reader to want to read more, and get them down that slippery slide, which we're going to talk about in a second. Here's another one. This is focusing on desire. Become the artist you've always wanted to be, right? This here is a membership site I wrote for them. They do online art classes via a subscription model. They're online courses. Watch over the shoulder of some of the best professional artists and learn stroke by stroke how to create your best art, right? So it speaks to the desire of someone wanting to become the best they can. Here's another one. How to immediately start converting 40% more inbound leads into sales in 3 simple steps. So we call this setting a hook. Again, we're qualifying with 3 simple steps. Now I want to know what they are. I'm going to scroll. I did not write for Conversion Excel. This is a fantastic blog to follow. I have 0 affiliation with them. Check them out. But their headline's great on their homepage. Their value prop is what I call a bait and solution. Optimization makes money. We'll show you how. Pretty sweet. I'm interested. I know exactly who they are and what they do. The other approach is telling a story. This is obviously my website. Give your audience a brain, Hickey. Copywriting and video scripts that leave a mark, right? So my whole brand message, my story of everything you read is that it's more than just writing copy. It's crafting unforgettable copy that leaves a long-lasting mark on the mind and of the brain of a prospect or of your audience, okay? So again, whether we can apply this concept of value props to headlines of all types, whether it's a homepage, a landing page, or the headline of an email, we want to create what Joseph Sugarman, who's one of my favorite direct mail copywriters, says calling it creating a slippery slide. Now, a lot of people, when they start writing copy, will dive into, well, I need to like lead with the greatest benefit or the feature first to get them hooked. One of my best performing emails started off with the sentence that said, I just got off the phone with Jim, period. That's it. All right. But the subject line led into the first sentence, which led into people reading the next one. So the purpose of the headline is to get the reader to read the subheadline. Makes pretty good sense. The purpose of the subheadline is to get readers to read the first sentence. And the purpose of the first sentence is to get readers to read the second sentence. Now, if you actually apply this concept, you can kind of break away all the copywriting hacks and secrets of make sure to like give them something they want and intrigue them. But all you got to do is start a story, right? To get them to want to keep reading. Now, when you go to start writing, the way that you write should feel like you're sitting on the couch with someone having a conversation. An exercise I talked about in one of my podcasts, this will help refine your writing better than anything I've ever done. When you listen to people talk, close your eyes and imagine that you're writing the subtitles for the movie that you're hearing. And when you start to close your eyes and listen to how people talk, listen to the cadence in their voice, listen to how the rules of grammar and proper English do not apply nearly as much in the spoken word as much as they do in writing. And if you can write like you speak, it becomes much more personal than the overly salesy feeling writing that we're accustomed to. So try that exercise. You can even do it while I talk. You know, you can see where the ellipse is, where people trail off. They don't necessarily finish a sentence and then pick back up. But if you can try to embody that language in your writing, you're going to find that you're going to create a much stronger bond with your readers. All right, here's what I call the 5 elements of killer copy. 1 is be personal. Remember, we want to create the feeling like you're having a conversation with the audience, especially in email. And we're going to talk about different copy mediums here in a minute. Keep sentences short. You want to write at a 4th to 7th grade reading level. There are a bunch of different testing tools out there. You can Google a reading level testing tool and you can literally submit your copy. I don't use those anymore, but they are a good guideline. The reason for that is it keeps your reading punchy, fast, and easy. We live in an era of lazy people, and the easier and faster your read is, the more likely people are to consume it and to get to the end. And again, use simple words. So many people overcomplicate the language that they use, and they use big words because they want to sound smart. Get rid of it. With very few exceptions, if you are writing in a B2B space with a niche service that speaks to a certain level of awareness, you need to use industry lingo. If you are an attorney selling to other attorneys, you have to, right? So for any business to consumer stuff and for most lead gen, we want to keep it short and simple, with very, very few exceptions do we not. Here's the other funny part, right? So I'm a sales copywriter. Don't try to sell. You can sniff this out in a heartbeat. People feel it. And if they feel like they're being sold, they're never, ever going to keep reading. Like if you open up your email with, I had a feeling you wanted to make more money this year. You know, like, who are you? How do you know that I had a feeling? You know, quit the copy BS. So, and then the other thing is be slippery. You know, as Joseph Sugarman says, you're creating that slippery slide that once the reader starts the headline and the subheadline, the first sentence, by the time they get to the end, they don't even realize it. So I had an email come through from a response to one of my emails. And all this guy said is, I hate sales emails and I never read them. I got to the end of yours and I didn't know how. It's like, perfect. That's how you do it. All right. One of the most important things that you can take away from this webinar is understanding your copy medium in a tone of voice that you're able to use. Salesy copy sucks on Facebook, and you can get away with murder in email. Now, think of Facebook as a conversation that's just beginning, right? It's a platform where people are engaging and everyone wants to give their opinion and get some feedback. And there's really no sales that take place on Facebook. When you see effective ads, they just lead you into the sales page, right? It's not like, click here to buy now. It's, they're making a statement, they're starting a dialogue, you click, then the story continues on the landing page or the next piece of the funnel. So it's a conversation that's starting. But email is like continuing a conversation with a friend, right? Email is used to communicate with colleagues, to communicate with friends, family, business associates. There's trusted relationships that occur there. And when you start to develop trust in the inbox, you can be edgier, right? Your copy can be less formal and more personal. Email to me is the most lucrative channel you can use, bar none. And I'm going to get into some of the email marketing myths and how to maximize your emails here in just a minute. So this is a sample of an email I wrote, generated $50,000 in contracted sales in one email. And if you look at it, again, this, truthfully, the writing in this one really isn't that mind-blowing. It's the formatting that worked. So let's dissect for a minute how one salesman sold $500,000 in 2 months working old storms. Okay. Now this email was written for a software company, co-branded campaign, and their niche market was in-home sales contractors that worked catastrophes. Wouldn't it be great if you didn't have to rely on fresh hailstorms to sell insurance jobs? So right now we're kind of taking a position against the industry norm. We're challenging the status quo. What if you could sell lay down deals without having to crawl over other contractors, right? So I'm like, okay, I don't have to compete with people. And this is a true story. This is actually about a salesman that I managed. We helped one salesman sell $500,000 in just 2 months working an old storm date using the 3 steps below. Okay, so you'll notice a couple things here. I mentioned that I'm going to give them the 3 steps, but then I'm going to have a little bit of filler before we get there. We call this a loop, right? So you know how when you're watching TV and the guy's being pushed, but there's a gun up to his head and he's being pushed to the edge of a cliff, and is he going to fall or get shot or get away, and boom, they cut to commercial. But then when the commercial comes back, we're going to cut to a different scene where the cop's in the office talking with his colleague, and you're like, but what happened to the guy on the cliff? So we call these loops, right? We get someone to the point of wanting to know the end, and then we transition to a different sequence, and then we return to close the loop. Now, this creates an experience for the reader that they subconsciously continue to read for the human desire, the uncontrollable desire to want to know what happens next. It's why we stay hooked into a crappy TV show sometimes, because you just need to know what happens. So we leave this loop, we give some background information, but the most important thing are these 3 steps are actually very, very valuable. We show them, and this is the real plan of how we did it. At the end, we transition on a passive sale. If you want to learn more, contact us. We generated leads and closed the sales. We generated $50,000 in sales after this one email. Here's another example of a slippery headline. This will blend some formatting tactics that I'm going to show you here in just a minute as well. These were for hiring ads that I was selling, that I wrote, and they were part of my sales funnel. I'm about to show you actual Craigslist hiring ads that your competitors are running and the massive mistakes they're making, right? So there's like, boom, shock. What are they doing? Am I doing them? And then the opening sentence, and hopefully your hiring ads aren't making the same mistakes, right? So naturally, if you are in the position of hiring ads, you're going to think, uh-oh, I hope I'm not doing what my competitors are, right? And then we continue on from there. So this is an example of a slippery headline. What you don't want to do is this. So Quip has made one of the biggest mistakes that you can make in any digital marketing from a copy standpoint, especially in email. Subject line. Everyone has one of these stories. Okay. Then I open the email. It's from this guy, Patrick. It says, there are 5 types of bad emailers. What in the world is he trying to get off, right? So this violates what I call continuity of message. This is clickbait into something irrelevant. Anytime you have an email sequence or a landing page or an opt-in to a sales page, we need to follow a format to keep consistency of that story so the person feels like they're continuing along, they're building on a story, they're learning more, right? And we're going to talk about that as well, right? So there's a subject line, and then what we want to do is finish it. So here's a sample, how one salesman did this, and then we continue how it's done. It captures people's attention. This you open up, you delete right away because it doesn't make sense. People are confused. Quip, I don't even remember how I got on there, but many of their emails look like this. All right, email sender details and subject lines. I'll tell you, subject lines, I know there's some statistics that talk like, using all lowercase is better, all uppercase or numbers or specificity. I'm going to go into this in a little bit. The most important thing is sender name and trust. That's it. With very few exceptions, should you write from your company as the company name. You should write from a person. When you communicate with people in an email, it's a very personal medium. A sender should come from a human being, not the staff at or the team or the company, right? People want to be in dialogue. When you get responses from an email, people want to respond to a human, not a bot. We're going to go into some statistics on this in a minute, but I will tell you, if you have one takeaway, make sure this email comes from a name. I don't care who answers the emails. It could come from the owner, but then, the marketing team answers. But make sure it's a human being with a first and a last name that is recognizable. It's how you build a personal bond with the audience. All right. So now that we got sender names figured out, I want to show you my own personal process of boiling it down. This is a snippet of a sentence that I wrote for a radio ad. And one of the things that we need to do in copywriting for effective copy, and again, whether or not you're a strong writer, you can do this. If you can say what you're trying to say in 5 words in 4, say it in 4. If you can say it in 3, say it in 3. If you could say it in 2, say it in 2, and so on. So we need to boil it down. What happens is we deliver our point poignantly, quickly, and easy to read. And we want to keep our copy as short as we can. Okay, we're going to talk about the right length here in a minute as well. So here's a sentence. So what can you do to get more referrals without coming across as nagging or desperate? In red, we deleted so. What can you do to get more referrals without coming across as nagging or desperate? Then we got rid of do to. How can you get more referrals without coming across as nagging or desperate? Then I hacked nagging or, because I realized it was redundant, and we ended with how can you get more referrals without coming across as desperate? It's punchy, it's quicker. We've eliminated unnecessary words, and we've dropped, I actually didn't do the word count here, but let's say 5 to 8 words. You do this in a few sentences and you've just potentized your copy to be punchy. And I put this together because I was putting this presentation together and I was writing this and I said, oh, this was the actual process. So as you write a sentence, reflect on it. What words are there? How can you get rid of some? How can you boil down to the essence of what you say without the fluff and the filler? All right. I want to dive into the psychological flow of a buying decision. If you haven't read it yet, I highly recommend this book, Pitch Anything by Oren Klaff. People make buying decisions based on emotion, and then they use logic and analytical thinking to validate the buying choice. If you were to sit down and give a presentation based on statistics, people get into analysis paralysis and they start thinking. If I said to you, you need a water filter because your water has 1,700 ppm of particulates that could be hurting your health. And with my water filter, I'll drop it to 6,800 ppm. No one cares. But if I said, listen, your water is jeopardizing your health and my filter can reduce that by 40%, wouldn't you want to make the choice today? Yes, right? So we're using emotion. We're only using those statistics to validate the buying decision. Oren Klaff calls it the mammalian brain, the fight or flight, right? That's how you get the initial buy-in of the decision that is then validated by logic. It's very similar to the features benefit approach. If we can lead with our benefits, right? So you can learn Spanish on your own time. Yeah, I want to do that. I've been wanting to learn another language. And then qualify and validate that decision with features, we have a much higher likelihood of solidifying that buying decision. So we always, always, always want to drive for emotion and then use any logic or analytics to validate. All right, so now we're going to talk about emotional responses. Our goal in our writing is literally to create a visual and emotional landscape for our reader. We want them to get lost in our copy, to get lost in the story. So what we can do is charge copy with emotions. We need to do this in a way, unlike the first sample where they said we're going to supercharge your website, right? This is a false use of charging your copy. Words like unleash instead of use, unlock, transform, trigger. So here's some samples. Top line here. I'm sure you want to reach the true potential of your business. Now feel the difference if you close your eyes and hear it with just one word change. I'm sure you want to unleash the true potential of your business, right? It is a more fruitful, creates a longing feeling, one of desire, ambition, and excitement. Here's another one. Create the change you've always wanted. Minor word changes here can be changed to trigger the transformation you've always craved, right? This is like, we're charging this copy up. Changing how you do business can get you more clients and increase profit. Or transforming how you do business will get you more clients and lead to explosive growth. You'll notice that these sentences say the same thing, ultimately, but with minor verbiage changes, we can supercharge what we're saying. But again, the process to start is to write it, simplify it, and then use these words to supercharge your copy. Unleash, unlock, transform. So play with this. Think of more powerful ways to say simple words, and you'll add a lot of juice to your copy. All right, we talked about this before, which is leaving the reader on the edge of the seat. These loops, similar to commercials, how a TV drama or a movie is going to cut scene to scene. But at the end of it, what we need to do is be precisely vague. And it sounds funny, but it's true. It's a word I use, how to be precisely vague. What precisely vague is doing is leaving out intentionally that little snippet of information that's going to get someone to take an action, to scroll, keep reading, or call. And precisely vague is leaving just that little bit of questions unanswered. So if I sat down and gave you a presentation and I said, hey, here's my entire package, and you have every single question answered, I sit down and twiddle my thumbs and I wait for you to call me when? Only when you have already decided to buy from me. If you didn't decide, we're done. But if I can leave just enough questions, just enough that you're interested, but you need to call me, you need to email, you need to opt in, whatever it is, to get the answer, you're going to make the decision. And Joseph Sugarman wrote direct sales copy ads, selling a product that would leave little details of the product vague enough that people would purchase it to find out the answer. And he did this with a watch. He did it with a alarm clock and then a smoke detector, right? Leaving just enough questions unanswered. So if you're like, I was writing this morning actually for a brochure for a company, and we're giving away a service for free, but it literally sounds too good to be true. So instead of saying you can get it free, we changed it to find out if your association qualifies for free coverage, right? That way, it doesn't sound like it's for everybody. And what do I ask myself? Do I qualify? But if I knew that I qualified, it may sound too good to be true and I wouldn't take action. It leaves just enough to intrigue. So we're reframing that offer instead of we're giving this away free to find out if you qualify to get it for free. You see the difference there? All right. One of my favorite topics is formatting. So here's an example. I wrote this email. Forget reading the language. You open an email from someone you know or barely know, and you see this much text. I hate long emails. I don't read long emails unless I have to, especially when they're formatted in a giant block. If I got this from someone and I didn't know, hey, Brett, if you got this email from someone and you didn't know them, would you read the whole thing?
Hey, sorry, I was on mute. So no, in fact, I paid attention just because of all the stuff you're talking about to what I would pay attention to, and immediately my mind went to oneclickestimate.com, and then the bold words, and then the click here, just really anything that's underlined or bold.
Yep, and you'd likely delete it. And many people, myself included, I wouldn't even bother to read this. Same email, broken up formatting, one thought per line. It will be, this is one way that you can use formatting to create the slippery slide. All I want that reader to do is read the first sentence. Thanks for using One-Click Estimate for unlimited free roof measurements, roof estimates and reports. Okay, you're like, okay, cool. And again, this is an email. People have already opted in. There's familiarity. They're using the software. The point is, once you read the first sentence, now we transition into, we've got some awesome new features we'll be rolling out to early adopters like you. What's next? We're constantly developing. We'd like your feedback. Oh, cool. All right. So using formatting will help break the visual intimidation of getting started. And again, it's a trick at the same time because you don't know how long, like if you open in Gmail, there's always the option, the main Gmail box to scroll down, right? There's the response beneath it. So if you're just cramming a whole bunch of copy in a big paragraph, it's dense and intimidating. But if it's one little line, all they have to do is read a line at a time. And you can get away with a longer email because people will naturally scroll. All right, here's another piece. Brett, you beat me to it, and it's true. Your eye is gonna jump to the bold. So use the formatting to emphasize the points that you want to get across because you're gonna have 3 different levels of readers. First are the readers that skim just the headlines and look through and pretty much don't read anything. Then your readers that read part of it, they're going to read where their eye catches. So they're going to skim and say, stop your number 1 worst money habit. Okay, my webinar, got it. And they're going to scroll. Okay. And then you have your third, which is your highest qualified readers that read everything. So what you need to do when you format your copy is to take into consideration these 3 types of readers: skimmers, partial readers, and full readers, and format it that no matter how they consume your copy, they're going to get the gist of it. And they can make a decision on how to click and what to do next. All right, here's where we're going to jump into copy hacks or nonsense. I see this a lot with companies that are writing their own copy. they read blogs, they read articles and these studies, and they're like, oh, well, I can just use these hacks. They're garbage. And I mean this very sincerely. I have yet to find any hacks that actually work. So here's an email I sent as part of my own sales funnel. This is a click map I pulled from MailChimp. I wrote hiring ads that were sold as info products, and I sold them via email. Most copywriting tells you to do what? Where do you put the link? At the bottom. They say put the link at the bottom because you want to make sure that you essentially get the whole pitch in and they get the point and it's a qualified user and they're going to click at the bottom and know exactly what's happening next. Well, guess what? There's two types of email consumers. There's the guy that reads this, he sees the subject line and he says, I want that. And he's just eager enough to get going. And I want to make it easy for him to get his credit card out. So I'm going to put a link at the top. Then there's the guys that don't trust me yet. So I need to build some trust, some social proof, talk about pricing a little bit. Then I'm going to put another link for that guy. And then at the way bottom under the email signature for the people that make it way beneath the email. And what I have found is the click rate, as this map shows, 66.2% of clicks are at the top link, which is what, 3 sentences up from the email. In this email led to sales. I forget how many sales were linked to this one. I'd have to double check. But the links that are up here are much more qualified than the links at the bottom because they're eager to buy. And again, the slippery slope. Todd hired 12 sales reps in 30 days. True story, see below. And this is a true story. The guy ran my ads. He hired 12 people. And this, again, leads to intrigue. We use the brackets, true story. See below says, hey, there's going to be more. I drive into the pain right away, so I don't tell how he did it. Go into the pain. His roofing company was struggling to recruit and hire new sales guys. So Todd called me up and asked for help. All Todd did was start running some high-performing hiring ads that I wrote, and he ended up hiring 12 new salespeople in less than 30 days. He ran the ads on Craigslist mostly, and then this is blocking it. But I said, here's a link to the ads he ran. I don't say buy the ads here. My goal with this email was to get people intrigued enough to land on my sales page, where it then went on about the ads, how to get them. They're literally turnkey, plug and play. They're $200 and they were cheaper for you to buy than it could be to pay yourself to write them on your own, right? So all I wanted to do is drive traffic to that page to build the desire for people to want to see these ads. And then I gate them behind the, you can have them. They're $200, okay, or whatever they were. So the myth here, put the link at the bottom, garbage. Put links in different places and always include a link towards the top for those qualified people to get moving along. All right, here's what I want to show you. You'll notice this is two similar lists. These were segmented later. This first list, I would send and do all of my sales that were driven by value. So I'm sorry, the emails for sales were all value-driven emails. Every single one was actionable emails that would help people. And I gave away probably 60% of my content for free. And I made a lot of sales. Then I switched it up. By the way, 50.9% open rate, 12% clicks. Then I switched it up and I was selling my info product. I was transitioning out of this industry and this business is now dormant. I'm not active in it. I wanted to use this opportunity to test things. So I hammered the snot out of the same list where my sender trust was at 50.9%. I started to send salesy emails instead of value. My open rate dropped to 24.9 and 3.5% clicks. Okay. I'm revealing one of my biggest learning mistakes because I went after sales copy hacks and tried to sell instead of provide value. And I destroyed my statistics. So what's more important than anything at all? It's not your subject lines. It's not any of these little tricks. Yes, send time and all that stuff does matter, but the core thing is to develop trust as a sender and familiarity that when they see your name in the inbox, they associate your name with trust, value, and a personal connection. If they open every email and it's garbage and you're selling to them and it's pushy, you stop opening it and your open rate will drop. All right. This is my favorite Joseph Sugarman quote because I get this question all the time. How long should your copy be? And he says, like a short skirt, long enough to cover the essentials, but short enough to keep it interesting. There's no better way to say how long something needs to be, right? if you're selling a product, everyone's sales cycle is different. Some of it is getting people in for a free consultation, or for any coaches that are online, a free strategy session, right? The sales cycle for that part is minimal. All we're doing is trying to feed the machine to get people into a free strategy session, which is leads that will then be qualified. So what do you need to give away? Don't give out too much. Don't give out excess information. Questions are okay because we want people to take action, but we want to keep it long enough. We don't want to keep it too short. Now, what's too short? I've been experimenting with emails that were 5 sentences that have performed very well for a certain case. And if your goal is to get traffic to a blog that's designed to convert for an opt-in page, keep it short. Hey, let's lead with one of the biggest struggles for coaches is getting free strategy sessions. Using this tactic I created, I've increased my lead conversion by 30%. If you want to read more about it, I put it up on my blog. Here's a link. Boom. That's it. That's your email, right? You set the hook, you let them know what to expect, then they click the link and they're on to the next page. So each part of your funnel can be looked at and say, what do I need people to do? What is my goal for this reader? What action do I want them to take? And we're going to go over that here again right after we talk about objections. When we're selling in person, we can read body language. We can reel back in attention. It's very easy to sell in person or over the phone. But when you are selling via email, the only thing that you can rely on is your copy. So what you need to do is think, when is my reader going to have a question? And answer it then, head on, and then move on. If you don't, your reader's gone. This was an autoresponder I wrote for a radio ad, and the objection was, now you're probably asking yourself, why is Lance giving all this away for free? It's right up front. And then we overcome it. If you're not overcoming your top objections in your copy, I guarantee you your conversion is suffering because of it. So I encourage you to make a list of all those top objections. Think about when the reader is going to have them as you write, and then build in the overcoming of the objections as you go. All right, I know we're running short on time, so I'm going to pick up the tempo as we talk about opt-ins. Every opt-in should have a one action goal. I don't mean a call to action. This is different. The one action goal is, what do I want the reader to do? You craft the call to action, a language around it, right? If I want someone to book a strategy session or something, that would be that one action goal. If I want them to opt in for a white paper, that's the one action goal. And then we craft the language around it, but we need to focus on what we want people to do. So this is an example of what not to do. Sign up below and join the Contractor Coach Pro online community for free. Doesn't tell me what I get at all. There's no value. Here's a good one. How good are you with money, actually? This 4-minute quiz can tell you exactly where you are financially and what you should be focusing on next to get better. I didn't write this one, but you can click to take the quiz. You get the email address, they opt in. This one is great. Get our free ultimate guide to coding for beginners. The one action goal is to capture an email from this ebook. Fantastic, right? Now, after that opt-in, we need to continue the story. We need to remind the user of what they just did, either on the tripwire or thank you page. Hey, thanks for opting in to get our free ebook, or in the email, right? The next email, hey, confirming you did this. We need to remind them because chances are they opted in and got sidetracked and did a whole bunch of other things. And again, remember to use that TV drama approach. Keep that story evolving and cut up and segmenting from one piece to the next. And most importantly, is to be consistent and show, don't tell, okay? Like the Rolls-Royce ad. We want to, instead of saying we make luxury vehicles, tell a story that gives a feeling of being in that luxury vehicle. All right, this is our last one here, and then we're gonna jump right into some questions. So what we wanna do to create a consistent copy suite is this, okay? Now think of your copy as the brand experience and your digital salesperson. Your brand needs to be known in the eye of a visitor or a prospect or customer as accomplishing and doing one thing, being great at this one thing. It's why Clorox is bleach, right? And Johnson & Johnson makes all their products, but they've struggled in many ways breaking into markets that are outside their core area. Kleenex started to make a bunch of different products, but consumers box Kleenex into facial tissue. feel free to box yourself in and take that strong position. So when someone touches your website or interacts with a Facebook post or a LinkedIn update or an email campaign or an opt-in page, there is a consistent suite that is a memorable and emotional connection. What problem do you solve and what benefit do you provide? Okay. And you can demonstrate your authority through stories. Craft a sexy opt-in. Okay. What is the number one reason? Here, write this one down. What is the number one reason people hire you for? Craft your offers around that one piece. That is the most powerful thing. So many people try to shoot from the hip for their opt-ins. Well, I need an email address, so I'll put together an ebook on how to create a high converting landing page. But people are hiring them not for landing pages, but for graphic design, right? You need to focus on who do I want hiring me or buying from me? And what are they buying from? And what is the sexiest offer I can give away for free that is going to be irresistible? Okay. Continue that value-packed story and create that consistent, authentic call to action throughout your website, landing page, whatever it is. It should be simple and consistent. All right. Now, when you're able to do this, I wanted to share a couple of little success stories that I had. I had a prospect opt into my email funnel, which I think a couple of you did after this webinar, the 5 copywriting secrets sent to your inbox, tips you can do on your own. It's on my website, brainhickey.com. So people have opted in. This woman who's not on this call called me up to hire me. Before the call ended, she's like, can you please be sure that I get the rest of your emails? Right? So these are emails, and you'll notice them if you opt in. I don't sell in any of them. I provide value, and then at the end, I offer if you want help. It's not a sales email. They're 100% value, actionable, real tips. But I know that if you're looking for those tips, you may want professional help. And if you do, I'm your guy. That's the whole precedent that the email set, okay? The other piece I had, and this was on a different product line I sold, for a year, we were doing lead gen for a very expensive $12,000 a year software license sale for a niche industry. After a year of receiving these emails, I had a guy call me up and he said, Adam, every single email you've sent me, I have saved, I put in a folder, and I've reread. I'd like to hire you now after 12 months. Okay. Now, longer sales cycle, but what's funny is every single one of those emails was asking for a sale, and he kept them because they were value driven. So if you can create consistent value and you frame your copy, again, the writing is the least important piece. We want to position your benefits and value first. We want to create slippery headlines, have an emotional connection that feels like a conversation on the couch, and create trust and authority with your readers and walk them into a consistent, sexy offer that solves their biggest problem. And give more away. And if you can do this, you will overcome any weakness you have as an actual writer. All right. That is all I have. And we have some time for questions. Let's open it up.
Awesome. So there's a Q&A, or like a little button that says Q&A in the Zoom meeting. So if you have questions, feel free to pop them in there. While you're doing that, you cannot start your video because, I guess I can't start mine now. So anyway, it's all good. We can look at your nice beard.
Sure. Mine needs a trimming. So
I took some notes here. I just want to kind of clarify just a couple of additional things that I got out of this, and then ask my own questions first. Again, this is just me focused. Although we do have another question coming in, so I do want to just make sure that we have time for those as well. So what I love about writing good copy is that I think, especially in my space, people get not confused. They get hung up on the tools, and they get hung up on what a landing page looks like or what an email might look like, and they forget that it really doesn't matter. I mean, it matters to an extent, especially if you're a big brand. But I think for us small businesses, really what matters, the copy is what really matters, and the copy should take up the majority of the time, not designing some sweet looking landing page. So anyway, with that being said, I mentioned early on, I normally follow this framework of mine is like problem, agitate, solution. Like anytime I like sit down to do like some sort of writing, I've picked that up somewhere. I'm not sure where it was. I try to do this problem, kind of, put salt on the wound a little bit, and then provide the solution somehow. And I was trying to see, based off your tips here, what would fit in there. And so basically, go ahead.
Yeah, it's Andrew, first, I'm going to get to your question here. It's a very good question in just a minute. The salt on the wound piece, it needs to be authentic. And I think that format is very preached in the digital space. Like, and it's similar in in-home sales. They want to drive the knife in and drive the pain, and then you just like show up with the golden answer. But when you do that, if you craft it in an unauthentic way, it sounds salesy. So problem, agitation, solution is a good format to follow, but it needs to be genuine. Like, hey, I struggled to get leads for my copywriting business for years until I figured this stuff out, right? So that could be an authentic way to say pain, agitation. Like, before I figured this out, I spent $30,000 on a business that completely flopped, which is true. So I'm driving the pain in about wasted money. And then I figured out this method where I can do X, Y, and Z. And I'm going to show it to you in this webinar, right? So that's again, off the cuff, fly through example of pain, agitate, solution.
I like that. So you're almost framing it in like a story, like both those examples almost have a story in them.
Always wrap it in a story. I got an email that was like, oh, wouldn't you like to have the best year yet? Wouldn't it be great to have more leads at less cost? And I'm like, tell me what you did. Like, how does this work for someone else? So that would be how I'd approach it. Does that answer your question, Brett?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Cool.
Just a couple other things that I had written down though were, if you can then take that framework, so what you just said, so the problem, agitation, solution in a story, not coming across as like authentic, and then use those loops as you're talking about, which by the way, like my wife and I got stuck in the Lost series because of that exact thing. I realize now, like it all makes sense. Yeah. But put those in like these slippery loops, like get them to keep reading. And it's kind of come together for me a little bit. I've got to like kind of boil down my thoughts here, but what you've said is really helpful, especially these like slippery loops and then as I kind of put it in my own problem, agitation, solution framework, it's starting to kind of come together a little bit for me. And then on top of that, you had also said like boiling it down, like simplifying. I think that's super important. Like that's something that I definitely need to do, like when you were pulling out words in that example, and then replacing some of once you've got that, then go back and replace the boring words with charge words, I guess would be the best way to say that. Yeah. And yeah. So anyway, those are kind of my main takeaways, but appreciate you jumping in and these are really, really good. So anyway, let's go ahead and just dive into the Q&A. I don't know. Are you seeing those?
Yeah, okay. I've got them. There's two in here. And we're right before we get into these questions. In terms of writing process, if you go to my website, brainhickey.com, click podcast, I put an episode on Monday that goes more into my writing process. If you're interested in tackling this, go listen to that. You'll see everything you interact. The only lead magnet that I have on my site is my opt-in that's value-driven. You're welcome to pop into that. But that podcast will literally walk you through my writing process that has taken me a very long time to figure out, and it'll help everybody. So pop on over. That'll kind of, with what we've been talking about, it's the next step from there. So let's jump into these questions. Andrew asked, does it have to be a real human at your company or could it be a persona? Fantastic question. It can definitely be a persona. It depends on the industry. If you're in a high touch industry where someone might actually call your business and ask for Peggy, but Peggy doesn't exist, maybe avoid using that and use a real person. But if you're a SaaS company and maybe you're a solopreneur or a small office and you're wanting to kind of establish this large brand identity, and you can create a persona. And if they're interacting only via email or web chat, awesome, do it. It doesn't matter. I will tell you, even if it is a persona, your open rate will likely increase because it's coming from a real person. So great question. And my preference would always be a real person, but a persona is fine. And just know on those emails, whoever they click reply to on any emails is going to come to that inbox. Make sure you're monitoring it. All right, let's see here. Rob asked. We are a startup in its infancy. Would you recommend that we are honest about that in our email messaging? Like, should we almost poke fun at how new we are and try to get the reader to have a pity on us and give their contact info? Trying to get people to become members of our nonprofit, new kid on the block strategy. So this is a really really good idea, and it's a tougher one to answer. And here's why. If you take the pity approach too much, and you're almost, what you risk by doing that is devaluing your brand. Forget about trust for anything you don't want to devalue. And I think it's totally fine to be honest that you're newer, but if you do it in a way that undervalues what you're doing, you'll compromise your approach. Likewise, you don't want to make yourself sound bigger than you are when you're definitely not. Now, many people do like to seem larger than life because it establishes credibility. And at the core of this, if it were me writing for this brand, and again, there'd be a discovery session, we'd learn a whole lot more, but being a smaller startup, I would establish as much credibility as you can. Case studies, people you've helped, people on your team, and you can say that you're new, but I would not undervalue it. Like, take pity on us. We're new. We're still figuring it out. Don't do that, but definitely be honest and say, hey, we are a new startup. We have strategies that are doing this for nonprofits. But I would make sure to keep your credibility at the forefront of what you do, so you don't undervalue. So, and if that doesn't answer your question, type some more and we'll jump in. Anyone else have any questions? Those were the two that came in over the chat. Awesome. Rob said, good answer. Thanks. My pleasure.
Rob, we'll have to chat about that in a little more detail. Rob and I work together on a project.
Oh, super.
Hey, I don't know if there's any more questions coming in, but let me throw one more out at you as it relates to, I think, this audience. I think probably 90% of the people on here probably use Infusionsoft is my guess, and which means they are probably neck deep in writing emails, meaning broadcasts or autoresponder emails. Taking what you said today, what would be like your main takeaway of like, all right, when you go and sit down to write an email either this afternoon or tomorrow morning, like, what is it that you need to do? Like, as I'm sitting down to write this email.
Yeah, that's a good question. I know that there's 100 million different types of campaigns, whether it's nurturing, re-engagement campaign, getting people to renew memberships, anything like that, just from a product launch, sales emails. Here's how I approach it. And again, that podcast I talked about, we'll go into more step-by-step, but I'll give you the highlights now. Always start with the end in mind. What is that one action goal? What do you want the recipient to do? Every email needs to be sent with a very, very specific purpose. I can't stand emails that are just like, oh, touch point, gotcha. Like I'm on top of my client retention because I sent an email with a recipe that, even though I'm a financial advisor, like that stuff drives me bonkers. We've all gotten those, right? Or from realtors and things like that. So have a one action goal. What do you want someone to do? And it doesn't need to be huge. It could be click to a link to a website. It could be, I want to provide value and I want someone to watch this video so they remember that I'm a professional at helping them solve this problem. So frame that. Or it's, I want to book a strategy session with a cold prospect. I want my phone to ring, whatever it is. So we start there and we want to figure out how to build it backwards to get someone, again, that visualization. How do I walk up, start talking with someone, get them to hold my hand and literally walk them over to the phone, pick it up, dial, and hand it to them? That's what we want to do. And to do it in a way that is extremely personal, friendly, and trustworthy. So again, one action goal. I like to bullet point and outline my emails first. Introduction to set the hook. I'll often write my subject line last, because it allows me to see what I've written and then figure out a way to tie in the story. Other writers will write the subject line first and then figure out how to continue the story. I find that narrows my ability to write good copy in the email. If you write your email first, you can then have some creative play into your subject line. Think of it as a funnel, right? Subject line's up here. It's going to funnel people into the headline, subheadline, the rest of the copy. One action goal is down here. So one action goal, outline it. and then I call it storifying. I'm sure that's, people have said storify your copy or whatever. But tell your story of how they can accomplish this, and then have that link to click, reply, whatever button you want to put as your action piece. So
Awesome.
does that answer your question, Brett?
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, super.
Yeah,
And then
I don't see any of the questions coming in. So I think with that, unless you have anything else, we'll go ahead and wrap up. But again, I just want to say thanks. Great content, super valuable. And I guess if anyone wants to get in touch with you, how would they do that? What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, great question. So I stopped sharing my screen, and I'll reshare here just to put my contact info up. So if anyone wants to reach out just to chat, you're welcome to. My contact info is right here. You can jump on the website, brainhickey.com. I have a podcast you can follow, and adam@brainhickey.com. My number's on the bottom of the screen. I will tell you, if you call me, I do not sell to anybody, even though I'm from sales. So what I can offer you, if you have anything you want to bounce around, I'm more than happy to chat. Even if you don't want to hire me, what I'll do is just kind of lay out what I view as a good plan for you. And if you don't have the budget, I encourage you to run with it on your own. If you do have the budget, we can chat options. Either way, no obligation for anyone on this call. I'm happy to chat. And again, you're welcome to jump on. There's an opt-in on my page, 5 copywriting secrets sent to your inbox. They're all tips you can do on your own. And again, there's no sales BS in there. So you can hop in and opt in on that. And yeah, that'd be the best ways.
Awesome. Beautiful, man. Appreciate it.
So perfect.
We'll wrap
hey,
it up.
Brett, thank you again. And is it up to me then to hit end meeting?
I see that one. No, I guess it is. Yeah. I can leave meetings. Somehow you took control of this whole thing, but anyway, all good.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Hey, thank you everybody for joining us. Brett, thank you for having me. And I guess we'll be sending this recording out at some point soon.
Yeah, for sure. In the next 24 hours, probably. We'll see.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.